Hello everyone, thank you for joining my channel, Walking into the Light with Ryan Nolan. I really appreciate you joining this channel. If you like this video, please hit the like, subscribe, or share button below. There's also a description box with a link to donate if you're interested in doing that. If you do that, I greatly appreciate it. Anything is helpful at this point. And I wanted to talk about this message that I'm going to be sharing to you right now. And I think it's a good follow-up to the message that I left in the last video, which was about how nothing means anything, how basically everything is projected outwardly from inside of you to the outside of you. So it seems as though everything is on the outside of you, and really everything is playing within you, and it's being projected out. And for that reason, nothing means anything, because everything is just showing a story behind the energy that's taking place within inside of you. And there's no meaning behind the energy that's taking place inside of you. It's just energy. And the story that you see is simply, like I said, a projection of what's happening inside of you. And there's no meaning behind it. It's basically higher energies interacting with lower energies. So people that have higher energy vibrations dealing with people that have lower vibrational energies. And what you see in the world is simply a representation of that. And not to go over too much about what I said in the last video, but that's really the crux of it. That's really the point of why nothing means anything, because there's no meaning behind what you're experiencing for that reason. And when you do that, when you understand that there's no meaning behind anything, you don't make anything personal, and you can actually just live freely. And that's what the whole purpose of life is, to get to the point where you understand how everything is you. Everything is you. Every person that you meet, every experience that you have is a reflection of how you feel about yourself inside. That's really what it comes down to. And what I wanted to talk about in this video was, how that's applied into the real world right now, especially right now when there's so much going on. There's so many stories that when you go into on the news channel, there's so many things that are being talked about: the impeachments, the Ukraine war, political stuff within the MAGA movement. All this stuff is going on, right? But I think the one thing that is happening too, and this is something that I wanted to point out, was what's going on with the migrants, and the fact that they're making a big deal about that in the media right now, especially on Fox News. And then you'll see it on CNN sometimes too, and other news channels, where the migration is getting out of hand, and people from Mexico are coming over the border, and they'll actually have videos showing people peacefully walking across, rivers and streams in order to get to the United States. And it's crazy how there's just a concerted effort by all these news channels to talk about the same thing, when there's so many things going in our inner cities that are not being talked about. And what I'm talking about there is what's going on in Chicago, what's going on in New York, what's going on in Baltimore, what's going on in San Francisco. I think there is some news coverage that has been talking about what's going on in San Francisco when it comes to the homelessness problem and the drug epidemic and all of that. But that's all designed to conjure up fear. And the reason I bring all this up is because the reason that these news agencies are bringing up these topics, especially the migrant issue, is because they want us as human beings to cut off the consciousness that comes with compassion. And what I mean by that is, if you believe that it's not okay for people to cross over from a third world country into the United States for a better life because of your point of view, and there are people that feel this way, but they feel like, America has gone downhill and there's too many problems here, and by allowing more people to come into this country, we're only going to make our problems worse. But what you're doing is you're cutting off the one consciousness, if you believe that, because you're not allowing the compassion to fill your soul and to be part of your reality. When you cut that off and you say, I'm separate from the people that are trying to come over, from Mexico, I'm treated differently. I should be be preserved with the rights of an American, and the rights of an American outweighs the rights of someone that's trying to come to America that was born in another country. And if they're not able to get health care for that reason, if they're not able to live a sustainable life, if they're not able to make enough money for their kids to be able to eat, that's not really my problem, because I live in America, and in America, our needs come first. See, when people gravitate towards that point of view, and they attach themselves to that point of view, and they make something mean something personally, this comes back to the point that I made earlier about nothing means anything. When you make the point that something does mean something, in this case, it becomes personal, and you attach yourself to an idea where my needs must be met first before another person, then that's exactly what the devil and the enemy wants. And that's why this information about the migrants are going out on all these news stations, is to get people to make these judgments, to increase the illusion that we're separate from each other, and to reduce the compassion that people feel for each other, to create more division in the world. And with more division comes more energy for the army of darkness to be able to use against us. And what I mean by that is they're the ones that have actually created the migrant problem, right? They've been thinking about this for a long time. How can we get as many people into the United States and cause as much havoc as we possibly can? Let's first make sure that we ruin the inner cities like Detroit, Chicago, San Francisco, Baltimore. You can check that off. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring in an influx and force a bunch of people into the United States. And we're not even going to have to force them. We're just going to tell them that they're going to have a better life. And so the public officials within the United States, government officials, border officials, the law enforcement, the judicial system, all these different systems within the U.S. government are all part of this scheme in order to create as much havoc in the United States as possible, because they know that the end times is near and they know that judgment is here, and they're trying to bring as many human souls down with them to hell as they possibly can. And in order to do that, they're trying to create havoc and fear. And in order to do that, they're trying to bring as many people as they can into the country, get as many people homeless as they possibly can, and then create as much fear and escalate it from there. So the purpose of this video is to get you to a point where you understand what we're going up against, that we have, an opposition to our soul. There's a darkness, there's an enemy to our soul that is trying to create fear, that's trying to create more fear and more division within the human consciousness. And one of the ways that they're trying to drive the wedge in between all of us is to talk about the migrant situation. So I urge everybody here, number one, there's nothing on the news that's worth listening to. That's number one. So if you don't listen to the news, you're actually going to be more informed. You're going to be more enlightened. And you're going to be more consciously aware of what's going on in the world, because everything that's coming through the news is a lie. So by not listening to them to begin with is probably the best step you could possibly make. But if you do listen to the news, understand that they are trying to create division within the human consciousness right now, because of where we are timing wise when it comes to humanity, the fact that we're coming to the end of days, the end of times, and that Jesus Christ is coming for a second time to save us. And they're trying to bring the army of darkness that has plagued this world, that has put a wool over our eyes to keep us from understanding just who we are and the fact that we're all one, is trying to bring as many souls down with them to hell as they possibly can. And the only way that they're going to be able to do that is to increase the fear in the world, to create the illusion of fear, which is based on the illusion of separation. And one way that we can combat that as human beings is to understand the enemy's plan and to fight back by creating a unity within the collective consciousness. And one way we can do that is to do the exact opposite of what they're hoping that we do. And what I mean by that is that we can come together and embrace, for instance, if we embrace more migrants, if we embrace more people coming into our country, that's actually going to increase the compassion within the human collective consciousness. It's going to increase our collective consciousness. It's going to elevate our consciousness to the point we're going to understand that we're more one together. So here's the issue. If we think that we're giving up something in order to help somebody out, if we really believe in our soul that we're giving up something personally in order to help a family or an individual to cross the border, we've already lost. We're only gaining when you reach out and you give, when you reach out and you accept someone with all of your heart, with compassion, and you bring them into this country and you show them that there's a better way of life and you accept them. You are doing God's work. You are doing what God wants. This is the type of gesture that Jesus would really urge us to be showing right now. And that's the type of life that we have to be showing right now towards our children, towards the rest of the community, is that we got to be more accepting of people, including people that are trying to come from another country into this country. Now, if we're worried about it affecting our society, I don't think that's a legitimate worry when we have all of the other things that are happening in our cities that go untalked, that aren't talked about. The drug epidemic, the homelessness issue, all these other things that are eroding our cities. I think what we need to do is accept as many people as we possibly can for a better life, accept people into our country, but at the same time try to make our country a better place by creating more oneness amongst all people. And that doesn't, there's no end to that. There's no separation between one person and another. And that idea of people are losing out personally by accepting others into this country needs to be let go of, because that's the very thing that the devil and the army of darkness is hoping for. But once we understand their plot and plan and fight back by embracing the very thing that they're hoping that we'll push back on. So if we embrace the migrants, if we don't care, if we watch those news stories and we don't have snap judgments about how it's a terrible thing that all these migrants are coming in, and we don't fall into the trap of judging these people, of judging the situation, and we just accept it for what it is, then we're going to raise our consciousness level, because we're basically saying in that acceptance that we are one, and that I accept everyone as myself. And we have to start now doing this, like I said, because of the timing, because of the end of days that we're approaching towards, because of the fact that it's paramount that we all come together, because once we come together, we'll be more powerful, we'll be more insightful as people, as individuals. We'll have more power, because knowledge is power, wisdom is power, and the more we understand that we're one, and the more that we don't fall into the trap of divisiveness, which is what the media wants. Do not fall in the trap of divisiveness. Let's fall into the idea of oneness. Let's fall into the idea of oneness today. Let's accept everything as it is, because like I said, everything is just a projection of you, right? So every migrant that you see on TV is a reflection of you. And the more you accept the migrants that are coming into this country, the more you accept yourself. And everybody, if we all start looking at life this way, not just in the migrant situation, but in all facets of our life, where we stop judging our situation and we stop judging other people, and we just don't, when we accept everything as it is without any judgment and simply observe our life, we will see tremendous improvements in society, and we'll start to see all the things that we're worried about in our inner cities start to take care of itself, because the way that we're approaching life is much more humane. So that's really what I wanted to talk about. Was, my last video was talking about how nothing means anything, because everything is just a reflection of what's happening inside of you. And this example that I bring up with the migrants coming into the United States is a story that's been created purposefully by the army of darkness, and it's a playbook option that they use time in and time again. And that option is this: they create the problem that they pretend to try to fix, and they create a new paradigm. And what I mean by that is they create the migrant problem by creating a need for people from Mexico to want to come to the United States, because they make the United States more attractive, and they make Mexico, a very difficult place to live. So you have the Mexican authorities and the United States authorities that are all in cahoots on this. And you have obviously the army of darkness and all of, the devil and all of his puppets doing all of these things to make sure that migrants are pushed and encouraged to go to the United States through incentives and all these other things. And in order to make it even more difficult, they create the homelessness problem, they create the drug problem, they create all the problems that you see in society right now in the inner city, so that there's an influx of all of this stuff happening at the same time, so they can create the most fears they possibly can. That's the whole purpose of this. So they're trying to pretend that on the news that they're airing a problem that is an existential threat to the United States, but when in reality it's a problem that they created so that they can create divisiveness, the energy necessary for darkness to be able to use that energy to continue to perpetuate the problem, to continue to perpetuate the fear by sending more migrants in, to create more problems within the inner cities, to create more problems all over the country. At the same time, all this other stuff is happening. So what they're doing is they're creating the very thing that they want, which is the energy of divisiveness, or the energy of the illusion of ego, which isn't real. But if you believe that you're separate, you create that energy. The devil takes that energy and then perpetuates the issue. So let's stop that cycle today by understanding what's happening, and really show our compassion and empathy by understanding we're all one, and reflecting that in our actions, our thoughts, our prayers, and the way that we treat other people. So that's what I had for today, everybody. Hopefully this helped. this is something that came to me when I was watching the news the other day, and I just felt like it was something important to talk about because they're really pushing this on the news. And also to remember that, this isn't the only issue that they're using to try to create division and divisiveness. Always keep your antennas open when you watch the news to really understand what is their intention behind what they're talking about right here, because typically there's an underlying tone or underlying agenda that they have to create divisiveness and to create the energy that comes from divisiveness within the human consciousness that they can use to perpetuate their Luciferian agenda, because the media and Satan are all in cahoots together. And when I'm talking about, you got Satan, you got all the industries within the world that are part of this Luciferian agenda. So you got sports, news, entertainment, political, all the industries basically are in cahoots with this. And when you watch the media, you're watching what they want you to see. So just keep that in mind. All right. Well, hopefully you had a great day so far, and God bless you. Stay prayed up. Love you guys.